Hello and welcome to the Engage training series, Introduction to Organization Accounting. We're glad to have you with us today. Today's learning outcomes are to help you identify an on-campus workflow that could be translated into the finance tool, to help you identify and create general ledger and child accounts, and to help you create finance categories and types. Today we'll be going over what a funding request and a purchase request is and how those connect to your organizations. We'll go over how to create a finance account within the Engage site. We will be identifying what a finance type, finance category, and a finance stage are, and where those are created and assigned. We also have a few places in the Engage site that allow you to add some customized fields, so we'll walk through how to create those for your purchase and funding processes. We will take a look at the finance request from the student officer side of things. And lastly, we'll go over the process of reviewing those submissions for approval or denial. As a quick overview, the Organization Accounting tool is an add-on feature that allows you to manage annual budget requests and allocations while keeping a record for both organizations and your overall community. Now let's dive in. First, we want to talk about accounts. All requests and transactions must be associated with an account. Those accounts are connected to an organization, and an organization may have multiple accounts. For example, your organization may have an event budget and a supply budget that all exist underneath the same organization. Additionally, you can designate accounts as general ledger accounts or link them to an existing parent account. We'll go over that in just a moment when we look into the Engage site. To give you an example of what this would look like, let's go into Engage now. When you're looking at your Engage platform, you'll be able to see the Finance tab here once the Organization Accounting module has been activated within your platform. You can then navigate down to the accounts list, and it will show you a list of all of the accounts connected to organizations within your community. This will show you everything from the name of the account, a description if provided, the organization that the account is connected to, the parent account or the general ledger account that I mentioned earlier, as well as a balance and available balance showed there. This will allow you to quickly see at a glance the amounts within accounts, as well as the types of accounts that you have within your community. Now let's talk quickly about finance types versus categories. Finance categories are like tags for requests and transactions. You have the ability to run reports based on these categories and see how the money in organizations is being spent. For example, many of these categories can be things like initial deposits, supplies, food, or equipment. You can then run those reports I mentioned based on those categories to help you better understand where money is being spent by your organizations. These categories are created at the community administrator level and assigned within the request. Different from finance categories are finance types. Finance types describe the payment type for each request. This can be something like cash, check, or payment by university credit card. These are also created at the community admin level and are assigned when created a transaction from the admin side. Finance types are created at the community administrator level and are assigned when creating a transaction from the admin side. Let's look at where those are housed within the Engage site now. Again, if you go to the Finance tab, you can then browse down and see these two options here, Finance Categories and Finance Types. If you click on Finance Categories, you'll be able to see all the categories that have been created within our community here. You can always select those and edit those names, or create additional categories by typing the category name and then clicking Add. For finance types, just as with categories, you can edit the different types that you have here by clicking in, editing the name if desired, and clicking Save, or by creating a new type by typing the name here and hitting Add. For both categories and types, you can delete unneeded items by clicking the red X right here. Now let's talk a bit about finance stages. Finance stages allow you to mirror your workflow on campus in the approval process for purchase and funding requests. These stages indicate the different steps each request can take before the final approval is completed. You can set up a maximum of 5 stages in your process. Finance stage reviewers function similarly to form reviewers, that they're able to provide feedback or recommendations on the request. There's not necessarily a specific order that has to be followed, which allows some flexibility in the review process. While these stages allow you to set up a workflow within our site, it is not mandatory that each stage takes action prior to final approval or denial of the request. Full site administrators will have the final say in that decision. I'll show you where finance stages are in the Engage platform now. Again, by navigating to the Finance tab, you can then go down to Finance Stages here. You'll then be able to see the finance stages that we've created within our platform. We currently have 3 available stages in order that they would move a finance purchase or funding request along within our process. You can adjust that order by using these arrows here. You can also remove a stage from the process by clicking this red X here. Later on, we'll talk about how to assign different position types to these finance stages. Now let's talk a bit about additional fields. You have a separate purchase and funding request form and can have individual sets of additional questions for each of those. These separate questions are customizable, which allow you to ask specific questions about the types of purchase or funding needed. The main focus of these is to gather information about these specific requests. This will help your reviewers make informed decisions about whether or not they need to approve or deny a funding or purchase request. Again, like everything else, information about these is found underneath the Finance tab. By clicking Finance, you can then browse down to Funding or Purchase additional fields. We'll click into the Funding additional fields now. It will then show you all of the additional fields that we've currently configured for these funding requests. If you wish to make changes to these, all you have to do is click Edit Fields. Click an item and make adjustments as needed. You can also add additional fields by clicking these item types here. While you'll notice that we have a number of text boxes included here, as well as a checkbox requesting students to agree that they will only use funds for specific university, club, or organization-related purchases, you can add a number of different types of questions. A common one used by many institutions is the file upload section, which can be used to upload receipts or contract documentation from vendors. This process is mirrored for purchase request additional fields as well. Now let's dive into more detail about the funding and purchase requests. A funding request allocates money to your organization for initial or additional general funds to your organization. I'm going to repeat that. A funding request allocates money to your organization for either an initial or additional general funds. This could be for a specific request or a lump sum for a semester or year, depending on your budget cycle. The approval for funding requests will be done on the administrator side, and that can happen in either stages if set up through the finance stage process, or it can be bypassed and simply approved or denied by an administrator. A purchase request is a record of money that is being spent from an organization. This can again be either for a specific or general amounts. Once an organization has received funding, purchase requests are created to create a record for the spending of that money. The approval for purchase requests, again, is also done on the administrator side. This can happen both in stages if configured through the finance stage process, or it can be bypassed and simply approved or denied by an administrator. Let's look at what a funding or purchase request would look like from the student perspective now. I'm going to navigate to one of our organizations, the Campus Programming Board. This is a view that they have within their Manage Organization view. They'll then be able to go to this menu here, navigate down to Finance, and they'll see a number of tabs. These tabs will show things like budget requests, purchase requests, funding requests, as well as any accounts currently connected to their organization. If we want to create a new request, like a purchase or funding request, we would use this blue button here. By clicking here, they can then go and create a purchase request. This purchase request will have a few default fields, like a subject line for the purchase request, as well as a description, a requested amount, a drop-down with categories that will mirror the categories that you created earlier in this training, and then an option to connect it to an account that's linked to that organization. Additionally, there'll be information about the payee, which is where funds will be directed to if approved by the institution. And then beneath that, there will be all of the additional fields that we created using those purchase request additional fields earlier. You'll note that some of these are required and some are not required, depending on what was configured during the additional field configuration process. Once your purchase request is finished, the student can click Submit Request. Afterwards, the process will move along whatever structure that you've created for your institution, whether that's through finance stages or for direct approval by an administrator. Now let's talk about approving and denying transactions. Community administrators will have access to approve or deny transactions. Approval or denial will notify the submitter of the final decision related to that purchase or funding request. Let's look at what approving and denying transactions can look like now. We're going to move back to Engage, to our administrative view. We're going to move back to Engage and our administrator view. We'll then go to the Finance tab and go to the request list. You'll also notice on pending actions that there are 3 purchase requests. This is a great way to see at a glance how many purchase requests or funding requests are waiting for approval. You can also click these to see these specific types of requests. You'll note here that we have a Supplies for Dance Marathon purchase request from the Campus Programming Board that needs to be either approved or denied. We'll click in now, and you'll be able to see all the information that was provided by the organization. You'll see who submitted the request, the subject line for that purchase request, the category, again chosen by the student from the list that you created, and then a description of what they've purchased and need reimbursement for. You'll also be able to see the requested amount, as well as what account that amount will be pulled from, and then a current account balance connected to that account. Additional information like pay information and any information gathered from your additional fields can be found below. Once you've made a determination about whether or not you want to approve or deny this transaction, you can do a number of things. First, you can move this purchase request along any staged finance process that you've created by using this button here. You can also change the status to denied, canceled, completed, approved, or leave it in unapproved. As a note, approved only shows to the organization that their purchase has been approved. In order for money to move from one account to another, you'll still need to move those funds and then mark the request as completed. We have a few next steps for you that you'll want to make sure you take action on as you're getting ready to launch the organization accounting module within your platform. First, you want to make sure to create general ledger or parent accounts. This can be things like the student activity fee or a fundraising account. You want to create child accounts and tie them to each of your organizations that will be using the accounting platform. You'll then want to create your finance types and categories. You'll create finance stages if applicable, and then you'll create your funding and purchase request additional fields, again, if applicable. If you need any help with these processes at all, make sure to contact your Engage consultant. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks so much. Have a great day.